Are we live? We're live. Hello, good morning. Welcome to another instalment of Women Who Writes Books. Today we are talking to Progress Oberiko about her book that she's written and the one that she's writing now. And hopefully she'll be sharing some of her writing tips and writing advice, and you'll get loads of value out of it. I cannot wait for this talk. I think it's going to be particularly special. And one thing that I really love about these different authors that I'm sharing with you is that their processes are very different and their stages of writing are different. So if you're somebody who's been thinking about writing a book, there's going to be something in all of these for you. So I guess we're just waiting for her to join us. But if you're watching, let me know that you're here. Give us a wave, say hello. Let me know how your day's been so far. If you're in a different time zone, talk to me. Fabulous. Hi, Progress. Okay, so you. Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. How are you doing?
Hello, good morning. How are you?
Oh, I've got your window. Flip the screen.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, do I change that?
There you
Right.
go. You're back in the room. Welcome.
Hello, how are you?
I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Good to see you.
It's good to see you again. But so for those who don't already know you, tell us who you are and where you're based.
So my name's Progress Oberiko. I am Nigerian. I'm currently based in London. I am a writer, a journalist, a storyteller. I enjoy writing. Like when people ask me what is my hobby,
Mhm.
writing has to come into it because I do that for fun and I do that as a passion as well. So yeah, I'm a writer, a storyteller. I love to also do life coaching. I mean,
Okay.
people naturally navigate towards me to like, you know, to just get my ideas about certain things about
Mm,
life and things like that. So I do a lot of coaching and mentoring, and
mm.
yeah, that's me.
Fabulous. Okay, so I'm getting from you that you definitely love writing. So, when and why did you start writing? Tell us about your story.
Okay, when and why? So I started writing when I was 10,
Hmm.
like as far as I can remember. I started by keeping a diary, which nobody must read. So I I love to write about my first experiences. That's how I started actually writing about my first experiences. The first time I went to this place, the first time I did this, first time this thing happened to me and stuff like that. All my first times, I wrote about them, and I just really enjoyed the fact that I was able to communicate through writing because I'm
Mm,
this type of introverted person, and also I didn't keep a lot of friends.
mm,
So my diary and writing was just like my best friend, and I
mm,
started to communicate and just like um pour out myself to through that medium. And
mm,
so um I think I found it quite therapeutic because
mm,
it spoke to me. There are times I reflect back on the things that I've written, and I begin to learn lessons, begin to take notes from them, begin to, you know, take lessons from those experiences that I've had that I've written about. And so I continue to do it, and um social media, I mean, was another means as well. So I started to like
mm,
write on social media as well, write about lessons, life lessons, and also, for example, if a friend of mine is having their birthdays, I would write stories about them. I would write how I met them. I would write what I enjoy about them. I mean, I would just write about how interesting I found them. So, I mean, I think it's like not many people do that kind of thing. So
mm,
my friends who I write about will find it very interesting. And, I started to get feedbacks from people on social media about my writing and
mm,
how some of the things that I wrote about resonated with them. And so
mm.
this gave me, the go ahead to continue doing it. doing what I was doing, just like some sort of validation and credibility about the work that you do. So yeah, it just kept me pushing, and I just kept pushing myself. Even when those validations would not come, I still wanted to write. So even if nobody read what I was writing, no likes, no comments, I still
Mm.
would be somewhere writing.
I
So
love, I
yeah.
love how this is like started with you writing only for you, and it's almost like you were, treating writing in your diary and your journal as like writing to a friend, but you're writing for yourself. And then when you were ready, you started sharing it, and it's just so powerful that people got to experience your firsts with you when you were ready to talk about them. Your first with other people, and just kind of realizing in doing that yes, people relate to this. They want to know more. They are interested
Yeah.
in your perspective. That's
Mm-hmm.
so powerful. So what in okay? So you've been writing for a very long time, and still writing now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it sounds like when you first started writing, you were inspired by your own experiences. What inspires your writing now?
What inspires my writing now? So basically, I would say life experiences generally.
Mm,
So I'm the type of person that is very reflective. I
mm,
kind of, go back into myself. I do a lot of self-reflection and self-awareness and all of that. So
mm,
when I think about things that have happened, about events, about situations that occurred in my life, I just start to write about them. I just start
mm,
to take lessons from them and just, journal about them, write quotes about them, write things. And that is like the perspective, that is the area where I write from. I've had a lot of experiences, for example, maybe like domestic abuse, secondary experiences of that. I have had like, travel experiences. I write about it as well.
mm,
So nature, things speak to me in a different way.
mm,
So I like the fact that I get these insights, and when I put them down, I feel like it's overwhelming when I keep them all to myself. So I want to put
mm,
it out there. I want to share it with the people. I want to share my lessons, how what people can take from it so they don't make the same
mm,
mistakes, or so they see things from this perspective. So, and it's interesting because from a lot of people seems to resonate with
mm.
my writing. Some of the things that I've shared, they seem to resonate with it. And um yeah, I just really find it interesting, and yeah, that's where I write from. Yeah.
So it sounds like you're inspired by life, but you're also very curious about
Yes.
it, actually.
Yes,
I love
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
So you've written a book and you're writing one now. So tell us about the one that tell us about both. Tell us about the one that you've written, and tell us about the one that you're working on.
Right. So my first book was about community service, like development work, how basically Nigerian youths can give back to society,
Mhm,
how they can contribute to positive change in the society.
mhm,
And this is mostly through a period of 1 year mandatory service called NYSC in Nigeria.
mhm,
So it is set in Nigeria. It's more like it's non-fiction as well, which is my niche. It's
mhm,
non-fiction, but it's more like what you should know, what you should do, and how you should
mhm.
do it.
Like a
So
guide.
it's exactly it's
Mm,
about my experiences during NYSC, some of the
mm,
projects that I did, how I was able to make change in my
mm,
own way. And yeah, so how people can also do this as well, because I feel like I'm this kind of person where if I learn something, I I feel incomplete until I share it.
mm,
So I don't feel whole if I don't share it with other people. So
mhm.
I learn more when I teach people. I learn more when I give back to people. So I found that very interesting, and I just wanted to do that with my book. So yeah, that's what my first book is about.
Powerful. Okay, I love that. And I love what you said there about you learn something and you want to share it. So you don't gatekeep, you don't just keep everything to yourself. You feel like, actually, how can I continue to make change? And you
Mhm.
wrote a book around that, which is amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us. So what's the one that you're working on now?
I'm currently working on a couple, a couple of
Okay.
books. It's interesting because, people don't just maybe people feel like you just sit down and write one book, but for me it's quite different because I'm currently writing different books.
Okay.
So
We want to hear about them all.
but the one I'm very passionate about is about domestic violence, because as I said, it's something I have had personal experiences of.
Mm,
um and I just feel like many people out there, especially women, do not know how to handle situations around domestic violence. They do
mm,
not know how to approach it. They do not even feel confident to come out and share it, to seek for
mm,
help. And they just like sitting there, get soaked in that abuse, and nobody knows. Some even dies. So it's like
mm,
my mom's best friend died as a result of that. So, and that hit me differently when it happened. Just made me begin to think, about a lot of things, what people should know. So I started doing research about it. And
mm,
currently, the project I'm currently working on in where I work is on domestic violence against Black and brown women in Camden.
mm,
So all of these experiences is actually broadening my understanding of domestic abuse and abuse
mm,
against women generally. So I just feel really passionate about it. I have stories that I've put together that in my journal that I've been writing, and I am definitely convinced that it can form a whole piece which can, turn out as a book.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that people watching it, especially those that I know follow me, are very much interested in, raising awareness, in, finding out more information. How can we help our sisterhood? How can we help others? So it's really great that you're doing this work. And again, that what happened to your mum's best friend, that could have happened and you could have decided to do nothing with it, but you're very curious, and so you wanted to learn more about it, and you're doing something with that grief, with that pain, that will perhaps go on to change other women's lives, which is so important. So
Mm-hmm.
um, I did, for everybody watching, I did send Progress a load of questions that we're asking her during this Instagram live. But you're welcome to ask your questions also in the comments, and we'll get round to them at the end. But I'm going to throw you a question, Progress, that's not part of the list that I sent you. So, but
That's
I'm
okay.
really, really curious. So you're writing a book about domestic violence now, and it sounds like it's a bit of a research piece as well. Talk us through the process of like gathering whatever it is. Like, how did you approach this, and what's your plan, and what are you doing to kind of bring together all the different bits of information?
Um, I think it started from just me reflecting on my experience,
Mm,
just me reflecting on the things that have happened to me or to people, because I don't only learn from my experience, I learn from people's
mm,
experience as well. So I just started reflecting on the things I've seen around me, what is more common, even
mm,
outside Nigeria, coming to the UK. It is also present here in
mm,
civilized country.
mm,
So I mean, out of curiosity, I just like start writing about my experiences of these
mm,
things. And yeah, so it's basically just taking notes and writing every day about the things that come to my head, the things
mm,
that re-echo in my mind about domestic violence, what it is, how it is experienced in different ways, including emotional abuse, physical abuse, financial abuse, manipulations, control, and all of those things that are in there that many people, including women, do not even know is abuse. So
mm,
many of the things have been normalized, like, you're the woman, you should submit and things like that.
mm,
But it is actually abuse.
mm,
So yeah, it's just really interesting to know these things, to also have a contrast from my background as a Nigerian and also from here in the
mm,
UK, to like just compare and contrast these two experiences and see that there isn't much difference.
mm,
The type of abuse you get there is the same here, even
mm,
though, I mean, in the UK, there is law and control around you hitting your wife. The police can
mm,
get into it, and you can get into big trouble. But it is happening. But women are covering it. Women are not coming out to say it, even though it's
mm,
happening still. So I just basically write about all these things, and I've been also listening to podcasts. I'm
mm,
doing my own. research and just writing and gathering all the facts that kind of confirm my experience. So I've had
Mm,
the practical experience. Now I'm reading about it, I'm listening to podcasts and doing a lot of research around it. And all of these things I'm reading and seeing are confirming my experience. So I'm
mm,
going to be writing from a very practical perspective, not just theory, oh, domestic violence is this and that. I'm going to be
mm,
writing it, giving examples and sharing situations where this, for example, financial abuse has occurred, where
mm,
control has occurred, where emotional abuse, manipulation has happened, and give
mm,
examples, tell stories, real life stories about all of those things. So yeah,
mm.
that's how I'm writing.
And it's a big piece of work. And another question that's not part of my list, but I'm going to throw it out to you. So you're researching about domestic abuse, you're hearing stories, you're talking to people. There is a thing, called secondary trauma. How how, how are you looking after yourself when you're reading about domestic abuse? Because some of it can be quite triggering for women, especially even if you've never experienced anything like it. It's quite hard to read and to think about. So, what are you doing to take care of yourself while doing this work?
I mean, you're right to say it can be overwhelming. It can be secondary trauma as well. It can be re-traumatizing. And at some point during the first stage of my experience of domestic violence, it put me in a situation where I had an anxiety. I was
Mm,
scared of, like, a lot of things. I was just keeping to myself a lot, and keeping all of these things to myself was overwhelming and weighing me
mm,
down in various aspects of my life. So, how I am able to deal with that is through meditation, which I
yeah.
started doing recently. So, every night before I go to bed, I try to detoxify myself. So I sit
Mm,
down, meditate, and just reflect and just breathe out, just like let it out. And when I sleep, I wake up really feeling light and okay.
mm,
And also I have people I talk to, like friends that I share. I tell them, oh, I feel this way. Oh, I'm angry about this. This just happened. This just re-echoed in my head. I'm angry about this. I'm feeling this way and stuff like that.
mm,
And just opening up, just coming out to say it, it's kind of relieving. It's kind of
mm,
relieving, and it helps you to cope as well. So, and also what is keeping me, what is pushing me, regardless of all these things I'm feeling, is the passion that I have for
mm,
it. I really want to do it. I really want to do it. Like, it vexes my heart when I see women go through these things and it's been normalized. So I really want to do it. So the
mm,
passion is driving me and pushing me to keep
yeah,
writing, that I have to do it. So yeah.
yeah. Oh, that's really good, refreshing to hear. And the reason why I asked that, because I've worked within domestic abuse for years, and it can bring you up stuff. And I think sometimes we forget to look after ourselves while we're also, containing other people's emotions. And you're actively doing research into this area, which is so much needed. And you're discovering these stories and you're bringing them to light, and you're doing a real great service for other people that will come across this work and read it and their lives be changed. But also, you're a person as well, and you will get affected. So, I'm really glad that it sounds like you've got a really great plan in place in terms of, talking to people, sharing it, not holding it in. And even what you said there about meditating before bed, making sure that you can connect with yourself before you go to sleep so that you wake up feeling good. So, it sounds like you really do value self-care. I'm highlighting that also because I know that there are some people that will be watching that will want to write about their experiences, and sometimes writing about our experiences is hard and it brings up stuff.
True. True.
So, you're there just demonstrating actually, yeah, it can be really challenging, it can be really overwhelming, but this is what I do to make sure that I can do it, which is fabulous.
Yeah.
So, you've been writing for a long time. You've written your first book. You're working on a number of books now, which I love. So, but how do you find time to write your books? Basically, you mentioned that you work. So, where are you fitting this in, and what does your schedule look like?
That's actually a good question. So I know people think of authors and writers as people who just sit down in one place morning till night and just write. all they do
Mm,
is write. They don't have a life. They don't have jobs and things to do in their life, which is not true, because
mm,
we do. We have other things that we take care of. Some of us have kids like yourself. You have,
mm,
children. So yeah, we have other things. So for me, how I get to write is it's just by writing everything that comes to my mind. So
mm.
I'm not the type that. So recently I got into like some sort of challenge with my friend. So he said
Okay.
I should write about something while he writes about something. So he chose a topic for me to write, then I chose a topic for him to write.
I love
So we
that.
were yeah. So it got to a point I was writing. I was just sitting down on the table writing,
Mm.
and I had a writer's block. I just could not get anything to write because I'm the type of person that writing speaks to me.
Mm.
It comes to me. So that's why I don't think I'm a very good fiction writer,
Okay.
because yeah, I can make up stories, I can, do things from my imagination, but it just comes. It's not something
Mm.
that I call for. It's not something that I create. I say, oh, today I'm going to write 200 passages. That's
Mm.
not how it works for me. It comes to
Mm.
me. So I could be on a bus and something just comes to my head, and I'm leaving everything I'm doing, pausing the music I'm listening to, just to
Mm.
write it down. I could be in the bathroom, which is very common with me, mostly in the
Okay.
in the shower. Yeah, so I could be in the
Oh,
bathroom.
all the best ideas happen when you're in the shower about anything.
Can you imagine? So it happens to
Yeah.
you as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
We're thinking, and we're just thinking, aren't we? And we've got space, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's how it happens to me. I mean, at first I was thinking, I was feeling quite weird about it.
Okay.
So I'm like, why is it that when I'm always having my shower, sometimes I could even run out of the shower with soap on part of my body just to go and write something down so that it doesn't leave me? Because when I
Mm.
say, oh, if I come out of the bathroom, I'm going to write it down, I don't remember it. It just leaves me.
Okay.
So I was feeling quite weird, and I started, you know, I started reading about people having the same
Mm.
experience as well. So I'm like, okay, this is a thing. So yeah, that as well. I write in the shower. Um, I write maybe at night. I'm just going to bed, and maybe after meditation, something
Mm.
just comes to me. So I
Mm.
write like that. If I experience something or a story, a real life story, I just write it down, because there are times that when it comes to me, I have the right words, the right vocabulary, the right sentences, the right grammar to put it together, you know.
Mm.
But if I don't write it at that time, I just lose it, and it's just scattered, and I'm not able to fix it well. So
Mm.
my writing is kind of random, yeah. So I write as it comes to me, as soon as possible. Yeah.
Mm. I love that. It's yeah. I'm getting so many thoughts while you're speaking, and some some things that I want to share with you. But it sounds like you inspiration finds you, and you just feel inspired, and then you just take that moment wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you'll do something with it. And there's a book called Big Magic. Have you read it?
No, I haven't.
Have I got it on there? There's a book called Big Magic, and it's by Elizabeth Gilbert, I think. Yeah,
I'm
and
gonna
in
write
the
it down now.
yeah, it's a really great book for creatives, especially writers. And she talks about ideas and how ideas don't belong to us. Ideas just kind of float around, finding somebody who's going to act upon them. And so they can arrive in our minds. And if we do something with them, great. If we don't, it'll go off and find someone else who will. And it's almost like you're getting the ideas and you're doing something with it straight away, and you're holding on to it. And that's how you're, yeah, that's what it's reminded me of. You'll love that book anyway, but it's
Nice. I would love to read it. Yeah.
yeah, it's a really great read, but that's what it's reminding of. Like you're even like when you're meditating and you're still and you'll get something, and then you're channeling that, you're writing that down, like you're doing something with the magic that's coming to you, and that's just
Yeah. Like even
brilliant.
when I'm praying, like even when I'm saying my prayers, sometimes I
Mm,
used to feel like, oh, I'm praying, I shouldn't distract myself by trying to write something down.
mm,
But I started to think about it in a way of, this is God telling me something. This is God
mm,
giving me this inspiration. So I could maybe be praying my rosary, I would just drop it and then write it down, pick up my phone and then
mm,
go back to my prayer. Because if I don't, it leaves me. And then when
yeah,
it leaves me, what's my reason? Is it that God wants that to leave me? No.
mm.
So I always like, yeah.
Yeah. So for those of you watching, you need to be having your phone near you. You need to have a notes app, or if not, like pen and paper next to you somewhere, or in your bag or something, to capture these ideas when they arrive. Because it is
Yeah,
true, you're absolutely right. You'll have the idea and you'll think, I'll write that down in a minute, and then you'll forget,
yeah,
and then it's gone.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about why you started writing, what inspires you, the book that you've written, the book that you're working on currently,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of how you kind of do your writing practice, what that looks like for you, and you know when you how you respond to inspiration, which is awesome. So you've written a book already, but you're writing one now. So what I'm interested in knowing is what has writing your books taught you about yourself?
Um, so writing has taught me that consistency pays.
Mm,
Like being consistent in your craft actually pays off. Um, like I said, when I started writing, I wasn't getting all of the feedback and all of the likes and all of the
mm,
thumbs up and everything. But just following my passion and just being consistent with it,
mm,
regardless of whoever is there, is kind of fulfilling because at the end of the day, it pays. It
mm,
does pay. You get good at what you do, you improve yourself, you begin to see things from different perspectives. Like there are things I've written in the past, and when I read them, I'm like, you're very vibrant. Like I used to be really vibrant and kind of opinionated with my
mm,
thoughts. So when I reflect on those things, I see how far I've come. I see
mm,
how far I've come with myself and the improvement, the growth, and everything. So yeah, writing has taught me that consistency pays, and also that little things matters.
mm,
So yeah, it doesn't matter if it's a sentence you're writing, but that if someone reads that, that can make a huge difference in a person's
mm,
life. And just also putting the right sentence, even in a 1,000 word document, putting the right sentence can hold the piece together. So little things really does matter. And that is also what is reflected in my first book. The little things that you do to contribute to change in a community,
mm,
in a place you find yourself actually makes a huge difference
mm,
in in the entire world. Like it has a ripple effect that even though you can't see that immediately, it happens. It does happen
mm,
in the future. Yeah. So I think for me, those two things, consistency and the fact that little things matter. Uh,
mm. And
yeah.
I love that. And they're so closely linked because it's also about the small changes you make in yourself, and you can see that later on. And I love that you reflect on your writing and you can see the progress because, you know, I often think about when we're doing any one thing at any one time, it's not a big deal. It's just this little project that we're doing. But after you've been doing that for a few years, or you look back and you're, oh, that led to that and that led to that. So it
Yeah.
sounds like you're really open to, you know, growth, but also looking at it and giving yourself credit for how far you've come, which is so important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so if somebody was to come across your writing for the first time, whether it be your book or your blog or anywhere else that you're writing, social media, what do you hope they take away from your writing?
Um, my writing, I think what I hope people should take away from my writing is impact.
Mm,
So I, like I said, I don't write for myself.
mm,
Even though I have great ideas, I don't keep it. I like to share it. So the reason I'm sharing it is for people to learn from it, from people to resonate with it, from people to take away the lessons that it is
mm,
bringing. So I write to impact, and I hope it does that. So if you come across my writing, one thing that you should take away from it is what I'm trying to share with you, which is impact, which is growth, which is most
mm,
likely positive, something
mm.
to do with you or with life, or yeah. So that's what I hope people take away from it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Now, for those of you who are watching, we're shortly just around the corner from doing a question and A session now. So have a think about what you've heard Progress talk about today and what you'd like to ask her. If you're somebody who's writing or interested in reading some of what she's written, start thinking about it and post it in the comments. And while we wait for people to do that, Progress, I've got a question for you. Well, it's not a question; it's more like a request, really, for for those who are watching, whether it's in the live or on the replay, who are interested in writing a book, who are interested in getting into writing. What advice would you give them?
Um, yeah, for if you're interested in writing, you're curious about writing, you're an aspiring author, what I would say is that for you to be a writer, you have to write. Writing is not something that you just do in your head. It's not something that you claim to say, I'm a writer. Because sometimes you could feel like a writer, but you don't practically act like one.
Mm,
So there are so many ideas in your head, and you're already writing a book in your head, but in reality, you're not doing anything. So to
mm,
be a writer, you have to write. So continue writing, no matter how stupid it sounds, no matter even if it doesn't fit into one piece, just
mm,
continue to write, continue to grow your craft. And also to become an author, you don't just wake up one morning and sit down and just write a book.
mm,
It's piece by piece by piece by piece that you put together that makes sense and kind of form a book. So I
mm,
would say continue to build yourself, continue to build your craft, focus
mm,
on honing your skill as a writer. And you don't have to be able to write a 1,000 word sort of
mm,
document before you say you're a writer. If you
mm,
are passionate about writing, the little pieces that you do every day, that you journal, that you take down, it grows your passion. Like as a
mm.
writer myself, I didn't start calling myself a writer because first of all, I never even liked art. I never liked literature back in school.
Okay.
I never liked literature. Like we had this teacher who um she wasn't really friendly, and
Okay.
she didn't really make me like literature. So in our class we just sit down there, listen to the text that she reads. I enjoyed the stories and things, but I never
Mm,
really like the part of speech or
mm.
personification, simile, and all of those. I never really liked art. So what I did in secondary school was social sciences. So I
Okay.
did, yeah, I loved economics. I love yeah, economics was actually my favorite subject. And so
Mm,
I did that, social sciences. And then later on, although even when I was doing all of those things, I was still keeping my diary, I was still
okay.
writing.
So
So
you're writing it on your terms, kind of
yes,
out
on my
there. Yeah.
terms, yeah. So when I started coming on social media and doing my thing and writing and writing and writing, it was people who saw me and said, oh, you're a writer, like who gave me
Mm,
that title as a writer. You
okay.
get, so I would say continue doing what you're doing, focus on building yourself and your skill, and then this would your skill and expertise will attract the right people to you.
Mm,
So you don't have to focus on the amount of likes or who knows you or how popular you are or how famous your writings are.
mm.
The most famous writers in the world didn't come out of their mother's womb as writers, or just
Exactly.
getting famous.
They were beginners as well. They started with no followers and nobody interested in
Exactly.
their writing.
Exactly. Yeah. So build your craft, follow your skills, keep writing, make sure that you keep the passion going.
Mm.
Just make sure that it is lighting. No matter what, just keep writing. Keep writing. And yeah, that's what I would say. You would definitely become what you feel like as a writer.
Mm.
Yeah.
And that's really great advice. And I love that. And it sounds like from what you're saying, it's like you kind of defined how often you write, but just, or not even how often, how much you write, but you make sure you write. So writing for your journal, you're a writer. Writing for social media, you're a writer. Stick to it.
Yeah.
I love that. And what you said actually kind of made me laugh a little bit, but you're so right. You can have all the ideas in your head, but if you're not writing,
Yeah, you're not.
do something with those ideas. Um, So thank you so much for everything that you shared with us so far. I'm going to throw it over to the audience who might have a question for us. Pop it in the comments for us. Progress is here. She's given some really great practical tips. She's given some really great advice. And I know that some of you watching may be interested in writing a book, may be interested in writing full stop, and you may have some questions for her. Throw us a question. And hello to everybody here. Yeah, we've got a nice bunch of people here. And people are still coming. Okay. Okay, do you know about NaNoWriMo? NaNoWriMo. Do you know what that is?
No, no.
So there's this in November, it's called National November Writing Month. And
Okay.
it's a whole international thing. This might interest you actually. And the idea is that in that month you write a whole book
Whoa.
without planning. And you're kind of doing this challenge with people from across the world. There's a whole community centered around it on a website, and every day you write something and you input your word count. But the idea is that by the end you have a book, maybe not the best written book. It would be like your first draft, but people do it in November with very little planning and just do it.
Wow, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's been going for
Yeah.
years. I
Wow.
tried to do it once and I couldn't, so I said
I
no.
would I would love to, but I don't know if I would feel pressure because, when you are in that sort of space, it's kind of like you should write a book. You should write a book. So
Mm.
I don't know if I would feel pressure
I
to
think the
write
pressure's the point
when I'm
though.
not, yeah,
Yeah.
when I'm not thinking about anything productive. I don't know if I would be able to bring
Mm.
myself to do that. Yeah, but I think it sounds interesting. November is actually my birth month, so I think it will be.
I feel like it's meant to be. If November's your birth month, you're probably meant to be. You're probably the queen of it, actually. Um, okay, so thank you everybody for joining. Does anybody have any questions for Progress?
Oh, so can I write editing?
So Julia says, yeah, I'm going to read it out just because for people watching on the replay. So, can a writer edit their own book if you can't find anyone you trust with your personal thoughts?
Hmm. Okay. For me, I think, well, if you're a writer, I mean, you want to be read, right? So if you can't trust people reading your thoughts, then it's a diary. It's not a writing for public. So if you're writing, I edit my books. I edit my works, my articles, my essays and things. I edit it myself. But how I edit it is I give it time. So yes, you can edit your book,
Hmm.
but it's always advised that you give it to someone. It's like inviting a third eye to look at your work from a different bird's eye perspective and see
Mm.
things differently. Some of the commas and the sentences that you're not putting rightly can be put rightly for you. But I do edit my book, but how I do that is I give it time. So I can write something for I can write something today, and then before I would share it, I would leave it for like 1 week or 2 weeks and go back to it again. And I look at it, and
Mm.
in my head, it has taken a different form. So I write it again, I edit it, and do some edits on it, and then I could leave it again and go back and just do the final edit. So sometimes something comes to you, you write it down, or you're writing a book, it can take a different form when you give it time. So
Mm.
you don't write it down and edit it, or you say, "Oh, this is perfect," and you just want to put it out there. So in that sense, I would say it's either you give it time, and so that you can come back with a different personality, with a different perspective to edit your own work,
Mm.
or you give it to someone else. It's also advised to invite feedback, someone for feedback about your work. I love feedback, so I like to
Mm.
do that as well.
I think there's something key there in what you've said about if you're not writing to share it, then it's a diary, so you wouldn't need to edit it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you're writing it for the public, there's going to be an element of people that you don't know who are going to read your words, and
Of
you have no
course.
control over that.
Yeah.
And I think absolutely you can edit for yourself. Giving it time is the best way, but also it's not a bad thing to also invest a little bit of money in an editor, and maybe get somebody that you don't know outside of your friendship circles, outside of your network, outside of your community. Go for someone random who doesn't know you at all, maybe, and get
Mm-hmm.
them to read it. And I suppose when we're asking an editor, when we're asking someone to edit our work, we're not necessarily asking them to really love and agree with the story per se, or the book. We're just asking them to make sure that it's readable and it makes sense.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Um, okay, Jenny says, thank you, I will get feedback. Brilliant. And I understand that. That's what I've been doing so far. So it sounds like you're on the right track. Okay, Luke says, what if your story is not good?
What if your story is not good? But how do you know your story is not good? I think that is coming from a place of self-judgment and
Mm,
being self-critical, because
mm,
sometimes as writers, as human beings as well, we can be overly critical about ourselves, and that is
mm,
where it leads to maybe low self-esteem or imposter syndrome and things like
mm,
that. So how do you know that your story is not good? Because you're judging yourself. You
mm,
don't know how good you are or how valuable you are until people tell you that. Sometimes, yeah, I mean, it's not always the best to seek validation, but sometimes we need these validations to
mm,
reassure us, to let us know that we are on the right path, that we are okay, we are valued, that we are good at what we're doing. So how do you know you're not good if you don't share it, if you don't give it out to
mm,
people? So
mm.
sometimes I think you should, yeah, just like let it out. You don't have to judge yourself. Yeah, I don't
And
know if you have
also,
anything to contribute to that.
what is good, something that might be good to me might be awful to you, and vice
Hmm.
versa. Everyone's got their, there might be some books that are at the top of the bestsellers that we could read and think, how on earth did this get here? This is terrible.
Yeah, exactly.
That art don't even get that kind of publicity, and they're really great. So
Yeah.
I suppose a thing that might be good for you, Luke, is to have people who might read it and give you feedback on the content. So you can have like beta readers, you can have like groups that you test it on. You can, and just say, does this sound like it makes sense? Does it sound interesting? Um, those are some things that we can do.
Definitely. Yeah.
But also, what progress, what you said was so key. It is about having that self-belief, and it's quite a normal thing to, when you're writing something with the intent to share it with the world, we're going to be
Hmm.
like, oh, what if it's rubbish? Oh, what if people don't?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
going to feel like that, and that's very normal, I would
And
say.
sometimes even when you have something good to share with people, you feel
Mm.
like, who am I to teach? Who am
Yeah.
I to, how much do I know? Like, who am I to do this? But actually,
Mm.
who are you not to? Because if that has come to you, if that knowledge has come to you, then
Yeah.
it is for you,
Hmm.
and you have to share it regardless of who you are. You don't have to be the best to
Hmm.
produce the best work. So yeah, it doesn't matter who you are. It just matters that you're doing something great and you should share it.
Beautiful. I love that. Okay, so Jimmy says, thank you so much for the knowledge shared so far. What will you advise a new writer trying to start her writing career?
A new writer started trying to start a writing career. Okay. I think I said this before. Um, just basically focus on writing, write as
Mm,
much as you can, because that way you're able to build yourself. If you want to go into full-time writing, or full-time writing career and things like that, you you want to make money from it. I
hmm,
think you have to build yourself to that stage. I believe in process. I don't believe in magic or waking up and just becoming
mm,
something. I believe in process. And so
mm,
I recommend that we try to go through this process. So if you're starting a writing career, just focus on
hmm, hmm,
writing and sharing. That's where you can get feedback. That way you can build yourself. That way you can, become more confident in what you're doing. Yeah, I think
hmm.
that's, yeah, the summary of what I'll say.
Yeah. So, and I would say, in terms of like practical things that complement what Progress has said, start a blog. Start a blog, start creating your own platform, and give yourself a little deadline. So you might say to yourself, I'm going to do a new blog post and publish it every Sunday. So then you're in the spirit of keeping to a deadline, that you're in the spirit of, you know, yeah, keeping to it, you're writing regularly. It's that consistency that Progress talked about earlier. You're doing it regularly because with time, also, you get better with writing. You know,
Yeah,
the more you practice, up a muscle, the more you practice, the stronger the muscle gets. And then
exactly.
also connect with other writers online, on Twitter particularly. You'll, if you search the hashtag writers community, you'll connect with a load of people who are writing different types of writing, different areas, who
Mm-hmm.
use that hashtag, because writing can be lonely, but we're all out here. Um, so yeah. And also there's no set way. I feel like there's so many different types of writing that you can do now. Like, you know, you've mentioned that you're a journalist. You can have your blog. You could just write purely for social media. You could write scripts
Yeah,
for a YouTube show. You could write all sorts. So it's just about experimenting and leaning into what's interesting you.
yeah, exactly. The person, I mean, there, like you said, there are different types of writing. So sometimes you see people who write maybe fictional stuff, and you're like, wow, this person is so good. This person is so imaginative. Like, I
Mm,
can't write like them. I have a friend who writes, is a writer, but
mm,
his writing is quite different because he writes poems, and
mm,
he's so creative the way he forms the rhymes, and it's so imaginative, you know. So I'm like,
mm,
I can't write like you. I really admire you. Like, you know, you're really good. And he's like, I like the way you write as well. You're really good. So I think it just for us to become more comfortable in our skin,
yeah.
you understand your niche and focus on that. You can't write a poem, you can't write fiction, non-fiction, and write, you know, one-liners or quotes and everything at the same time. You have
Mm,
a gift and something that you are good at. You can focus on that. Like I said, I can write fiction and
mm,
imaginative stuff,
mm,
but I think what I'm gifted with, what comes to me naturally is non-fiction.
mm,
Just learning from my experience and from my environment and writing about it. So I focus on that more because
mm,
that is my strength.
yeah.
So don't really look at people who are doing marvelously well as poets as this, and you're like, oh, I'm not good. I'm not. You know, you are good in your own way, and they are
Mm,
good in their own way. So yeah.
mm. I love that. I just feel like that was a really great TED talk almost. That was so But it is something, and it's also about like recognizing your strengths. But from my point of view, also experimenting to see what you're good at. Because sometimes if you're starting out, you don't know yet what
True.
what you're good at. You maybe you like poetry, but maybe you're awful at it. But you're really great at non-fiction, or vice versa. Because I remember when at the beginning of mine, which is a very very long time ago, I used to write for this online magazine, and I would go to music events and write a review about it. I would interview people and write that about it, and I probably thought I was really great, but on reflection, I don't know if I was, but I don't write like that now. So, you know, being open to the journey, and then when you
Yeah.
start to tap into actually, this feels really good, this feels really natural, it's just flowing like you do with your non-fiction, and then
Hmm.
just honing in on that, which is what you're doing. So, yeah,
Great.
some
Yeah.
really great advice.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a few minutes left, everybody. I think we've got about 10 minutes left. So, Progress is here. She's answering your questions about writing a book, about getting into writing practice. She's very knowledgeable. Take advantage of this moment and throw her some questions. We've had some really great points raised here. Um,
I'm just trying to read through the comments. Is it possible to go down or
you should be able to scroll. Uh,
no?
there's not many.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. I will give it a few minutes and see if anyone else has got anything to say. But is there anything that you want to share or say that you feel like we haven't covered in this conversation that you think might be useful for people watching?
Um, Nothing really. What I would say is just we should learn to be more self-aware, to
Mm,
pay attention to ourselves, because sometimes we are speaking to ourselves, but we don't realize this. There's so much noise. I feel like there's so much noise around going on in the world around
mm,
you. You're going out, maybe you're going for a short walk and you have your headphones on, listening to music. You're on the train, you're banging music and things like that. You're in the kitchen cooking. I feel like we need more time to listen to ourselves,
mm,
because yeah, we speak to ourselves, and if we don't listen to our own voices, we will not be able to recognize maybe like passions that we have
Mm,
or inspirations that we are getting or things
mm,
like that. So I think the world needs more silence, and you can create this for yourself. You
yeah.
should, yeah, that you should focus on being self-aware, focus on yourself, and just be present, basically.
Mm, I love that. It's like lean into yourself, connect to yourself, and actually really think about what you're really thinking outside of the noise and what you're really feeling outside
Exactly.
of what everyone's telling you to feel. And that's so
Yeah.
powerful.
Hmm.
I want to say a big thank you. I can't see any more questions. So I want to say a big, big thank you, Progress, for your time this morning, for you being so open, like so open with your writing process. Because I know these are very direct questions, but I
Yeah.
know it's so helpful for people who are watching who are also wanting to write like you're writing. So thank you for sharing. For
Thank
those of
you.
you who are watching on the replay, post something in the comments. Let Progress know how you found this. If you have any questions after this, post it in the comments so we can get to you. And if you're watching this and you feel like this would be useful for a friend or a partner or a colleague or someone that you know who wants to write and hasn't quite yet taken the step, share this video with them, because you just never know how a difference it could make to somebody who's thinking it's not possible. Because Progress is writing more than one book at a time. It's possible. Thank you
Thank
so
you so much. Thank you so much for having me. This is like very, this is an opportunity for me to share my experience, and it's very relieving. Sharing, as I
Mm.
said, is very, I find it very impactful to share. So yeah, it's
Oh,
a good thing for me, and I hope it's a good thing for people watching. And I love it. Thanks for creating this opportunity, for having me as well. Thank you,
thank you
Anika.
thank you for saying yes. You could have said no, but you was like, yes, I will. So I'm really grateful that you're here, and thank you everybody for watching. Thanks for your questions, and have a great day. See you soon. See you later. Bye.
Bye.